The alien scout ship touched down in a remote field outside Lansing, Michigan, its sleek form a stark contrast to the surrounding cornfields. Pixis, the lone Illyrian occupant, emerged with a singular purpose: to study human reproduction methods and save her species from extinction. Michael Wilson, a 28-year-old engineer, stood frozen in his farmhouse kitchen. Through the window, he watched the alien approach, her silvery skin shimmering in the afternoon sun. His heart raced as she reached the porch, her large, iridescent eyes fixed on him. A knock echoed through the house. Michael hesitated, then opened the door. Pixis stood before him, her lithe form barely reaching his chest. She spoke, her voice melodic, yet urgent. "I am Pixis of Illyria. We face a fertility crisis that threatens our survival. I seek knowledge of human reproduction to save my people." Michael's mind reeled. The implications of this encounter were staggering. If he helped, it could change the course of two civilizations. If he refused, an entire species might perish. The weight of the decision pressed down on him. I'm not sure I'm qualified," he stammered. Pixis's expression softened. "Any information could be vital. Please, will you assist me?" Reluctantly, Michael nodded. He led her to his study, where medical textbooks lined the shelves. As they pored over diagrams of human anatomy, Michael's discomfort grew. Pixis's questions became increasingly intimate, her requests for demonstrations more explicit. Unknown to them, U.S. government officials had detected the alien ship's arrival. A team was already en route, and local law enforcement had established a perimeter around Michael's property. The clock was ticking. As night fell, tension mounted both inside and outside the farmhouse. Michael grappled with his growing attraction to Pixis, her alien features somehow alluring in the dim lamplight. He questioned the ethics of sharing human reproductive capabilities with an unknown species. Could it lead to unforeseen consequences for Earth? Pixis sensed his inner turmoil. "My mission has a strict deadline," she revealed, her voice tinged with desperation. "Without a solution, my people may not survive another generation." The pressure intensified. Michael's mind raced through potential outcomes, each more world-altering than the last. As dawn approached, Pixis made a startling proposal. "Perhaps a human-Illyrian hybrid could be the key to our salvation," she suggested, her eyes gleaming with hope and something else. Desire. Michael's breath caught in his throat. The implications were staggering. If successful, it could revolutionize both human and Illyrian societies. If it failed, the consequences could be catastrophic. As he wrestled with the decision, the sound of approaching vehicles broke the silence. Government forces were closing in, ready to breach the farmhouse. Michael and Pixis locked eyes, the weight of their choices bearing down upon them. In mere moments, they would face the consequences of their actions and potentially alter the course of two worlds forever. Michael's heart pounded as he nodded, his decision made. "I'll help you, Pixis. We don't have much time." He led her back to his study, pulling medical textbooks from the shelves. As they pored over diagrams of human anatomy, Michael's discomfort gave way to a sense of purpose. He retrieved a detailed anatomical model from a closet, using it to illustrate the intricacies of human reproductive systems. "This is the uterus," Michael explained, pointing to the model. "It's where human embryos develop." Pixis leaned in, her iridescent eyes wide with fascination. "Remarkable. Our physiology is quite different." As they delved deeper into human biology, Pixis shared more about the Illyrian crisis. "Our genetic diversity has plummeted," she said, her melodic voice tinged with sorrow. "Each generation, more of our children are born with debilitating conditions. Without intervention, we may not survive another century." Michael felt a wave of empathy wash over him. The fate of an entire civilization hung in the balance, and he held a piece of the solution. "I understand," he said softly. "What else can I show you?" Outside, Agent Jack Thompson crouched in the shadows, his team surrounding the farmhouse. Through high-powered binoculars, he observed the alien and human interacting. "Hold positions," he whispered into his comm unit. "We need more intel before moving in." Inside, the atmosphere between Michael and Pixis shifted. As they progressed to more intimate aspects of human reproduction, the air grew thick with tension. Michael's hands trembled as he demonstrated the basics of human arousal and stimulation on the anatomical model. Pixis stepped closer, her silvery skin glowing in the dim light. Perhaps a more hands-on approach would be beneficial, she suggested, her voice low and inviting. Michael's breath caught in his throat. He knew he should refuse, but the pull between them was magnetic. Slowly, he nodded. Their exploration began tentatively, with gentle touches and careful explanations. But as the night wore on, their interactions grew more passionate. Michael marveled at the alien beauty of Pixis's form, so different yet so alluring. Their bodies entwined, a union of two worlds, as they lost themselves in the primal dance of intimacy. Unbeknownst to the pair, Agent Thompson and his team captured every moment on their surveillance equipment. Thompson watched the feed, his expression a mix of shock and calculation. "This changes everything," he muttered, reaching for his secure phone to update his superiors. As dawn approached, Michael and Pixis lay intertwined, their bodies cooling in the soft morning light. Pixis traced a finger along Michael's chest, her eyes filled with wonder. "Your species is truly remarkable," she murmured, "but I fear this alone may not be enough to save my people." Michael propped himself up on an elbow, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Pixis sat up, her expression serious. "Our scientists believe a hybrid might be the key, a being with the genetic diversity of humans and the adaptability of Illyrians. But to attempt such a feat, we would need access to our technology on my homeworld." The implication hung heavy in the air. Michael's mind reeled at the thought of leaving Earth, of abandoning everything he knew. Yet as he gazed at Pixis, he felt a pull stronger than gravity itself. Before he could respond, a high-pitched whine filled the air. Pixis's eyes widened in alarm. "A communication from my superiors," she explained, pressing a hidden device in her ear. Her expression grew increasingly distressed as she listened. "What is it?" Michael asked, sitting up. Pixis turned to him, her eyes filled with urgency. "Rival factions have discovered our mission. They're on their way to Earth, intent on stopping us. We must act now." Outside, the quiet of the early morning was shattered by the sound of approaching vehicles. Agent Thompson received new orders through his earpiece. "Extract the alien immediately. Use force if necessary." As government forces prepared to breach the farmhouse, Michael found himself at the epicenter of a cosmic crossroads. The choice before him would alter not just his life, but potentially the course of two civilizations. With Pixis's urgent gaze upon him and the sound of boots on gravel outside, Michael knew his next decision would change everything. The tranquil morning air shattered as the rumble of approaching vehicles jolted Michael and Pixis awake. Michael leapt from the bed, his heart pounding as he peered through the curtains. His blood ran cold at the sight of armored personnel carriers rolling down his driveway, flanked by black SUVs. "Pixis, we've got company," he hissed, turning to the alien who was already on her feet, her silvery skin shimmering with tension. "Government agents, they're surrounding the house." Pixis's iridescent eyes widened. "We must leave immediately," she said, her melodic voice tight with urgency. She pressed a hidden device on her wrist, her fingers dancing across its surface. "I've activated my ship's cloaking mechanism. It's now invisible to your technology." Michael's mind raced. He knew every second counted. "We can't go out the front or back. They'll spot us instantly." His eyes darted around the room, landing on a worn rug in the corner. "The cellar. There's an old tunnel down there, part of the Underground Railroad. It might be our only chance." Without hesitation, Michael grabbed a backpack, shoving in water bottles, energy bars, and a first aid kit. Pixis collected her communication devices and the notes they'd made on human reproduction. As the sound of boots on gravel grew louder, Michael lifted the rug, revealing a trapdoor. They descended into darkness just as the first pounding knock echoed through the house. Michael pulled a flashlight from a shelf, illuminating a narrow earthen passage. The musty scent of history filled their nostrils as they moved forward, the sounds of the agents breaching the house fading behind them. "This tunnel was used to help escaped slaves reach freedom," Michael explained in a whisper as they navigated the cramped space. "It leads to an old barn about a mile from here. From there, we should be able to reach your ship." Pixis nodded, her eyes reflecting the beam of the flashlight. Your knowledge may save both our lives, Michael, and perhaps my entire species. As they pressed on, the weight of Michael's decision began to sink in. He was aiding an alien, evading his own government. There would be no going back from this. Yet as he glanced at Pixis, seeing the willpower and hope in her otherworldly features, he knew he'd made the right choice. Above ground, Agent Thompson stormed through the empty farmhouse, his frustration mounting with each vacant room. "They're gone," he barked into his comm unit. "Sweep the entire property. Check every outbuilding, every field. They couldn't have gotten far." Unbeknownst to the agents combing the area, Tom Baker stood on a nearby hill, his telescope trained on the commotion below. The amateur astronomer's hands trembled as he reached for his ham radio. He knew what he was about to do could change everything, but he couldn't stand by and watch. "Attention all frequencies," Tom's voice crackled across the airwaves. "This is not a drill. An extraterrestrial visitor is present in our area. Government forces are attempting to capture her. I repeat, we have first contact, and our government is trying to suppress it." Within minutes, Tom's message spread like wildfire across social media. Curiosity seekers and citizen journalists began flocking to the area, cameras and smartphones at the ready. Meanwhile, Michael and Pixis emerged from the tunnel into the early morning light. The field where Pixis's ship had landed lay before them, tantalizingly close. But as they stepped from the cover of the trees, Michael's breath caught in his throat. A sleek, menacing craft hovered above the field, unlike anything he'd ever seen. "Zorgons," Pixis hissed, her body tensing. "Our greatest enemies. They must have followed me here." Before Michael could respond, a tall reptilian figure emerged from the ship. Commander Krax's scale-covered skin glistened in the sunlight as he surveyed the area with cold, calculating eyes. "Pixis of Illyria," Krax's voice boomed across the field. "Surrender yourself and the human. The secrets of Earth's reproduction will be ours." Pixis quickly activated her ship's defenses, enveloping herself and Michael in a shimmering force field. "The Zorgons have long sought to conquer my people," she explained hurriedly. "If they gain the knowledge we've discovered, they'll use it against both our worlds." Michael's mind whirled, processing the escalating situation. He glanced between Pixis's determined face and the imposing figure of Commander Krax. In that moment, he made a decision that would alter the course of two civilizations. "Pixis," he whispered, "I think I have an idea, but I'll need to know more about your ship's capabilities and the Zorgon's weaknesses." As Pixis began explaining the intricacies of their technology, the sound of approaching vehicles filled the air once more. Agent Thompson and his team had arrived at the field, creating a three-way standoff between humans, Illyrians, and Zorgons. Thompson assessed the situation rapidly, his trained eyes taking in the alien craft and the protective bubble surrounding Michael and Pixis. With a split-second decision that would later be scrutinized by his superiors, he raised his hand, signaling his team to hold their fire. "Michael Wilson," Thompson called out, his voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances. "We need you and the alien to come with us. We can protect you from whatever that is." He gestured towards the Zorgon ship. Commander Krax sneered, his reptilian features twisting. "Protect? Foolish humans. We offer power beyond your imagination. Give us the Illyrian and her knowledge, and your planet will be rewarded." Michael stood tall, his eyes darting between the two forces. He knew that the next few moments would shape the future of Earth and Illyria alike. With a deep breath, he prepared to put his hastily formed plan into action, hoping against hope that his engineering skills and Pixis's advanced technology would be enough to overcome the threat looming before them. Michael took a deep breath, his mind racing through possibilities. He turned to Pixis, dedication etched on his face. "I think I know how we can get out of this. Your ship's propulsion system. Can it generate enough power for a short-range wormhole?" Pixis's eyes widened in surprise. "Theoretically, yes, but it's never been attempted in such close proximity to a planet's surface. The risk would be immense." "It might be our only chance," Michael replied, his voice low and urgent. Before they could act on Michael's plan, a brilliant flash of light erupted from the Zorgon ship. A translucent beam enveloped their protective bubble, slowly constricting it. "We're out of time," Pixis hissed, her fingers flying over the ship's controls. "Initiating wormhole sequence now." The air around them began to crackle with energy. Michael felt his hair stand on end as the fabric of space-time warped and twisted. Through the shimmering force field, he saw Agent Thompson's mouth move, shouting unheard orders to his team. With a deafening crack, reality itself seemed to split open. The farmland, the government agents, and the looming Zorgon ship all vanished in a whirlwind of starlight and impossible colors. Michael's stomach lurched as they plunged into the swirling vortex of the wormhole. The ship bucked and shuddered, alarms blaring from every console. Michael gripped his seat, fists clenched, as he watched Pixis navigate the turbulent passage. Her silvery skin glowed with an otherworldly light, her movements a blur as she fought to keep them on course. "Power levels critical," Pixis shouted over the cacophony of alarms. "Reroute auxiliary power to the shields." Michael sprang into action, his engineering instincts kicking in. He dove for the nearest control panel, fingers dancing across unfamiliar symbols as he channeled every ounce of spare energy into their protective barrier. The wormhole seemed to last an eternity and no time at all. With a final, violent lurch, they burst back into normal space. The alarms fell silent, replaced by the ominous hum of failing systems. "Where are we?" Michael asked, peering out at an unfamiliar starfield. Pixis shook her head, her expression grim. "Unknown. Long-range scanners are offline. We're operating on emergency power only." As if in answer to their predicament, a proximity alert chimed softly. A planet loomed before them, swirls of blue and green visible beneath wispy cloud cover. "Life-supporting atmosphere detected," Pixis reported, relief evident in her voice. "It's our only option. We need to land and replenish our power reserves." As they entered the planet's atmosphere, Michael's eyes widened at the sight below. Gleaming spires of an impossibly advanced city stretched across the horizon. "Pixis," he breathed, "I don't think we're alone here." Before she could respond, their ship was suddenly enveloped in a pale blue light. Their descent slowed, guided by an unseen force towards a massive structure at the city's heart. "We're caught in some kind of tractor beam," Pixis said, her hands hovering uselessly over the controls. "I can't override it." They touched down with surprising gentleness on a smooth metallic platform. As the ship's systems powered down, Michael and Pixis exchanged a nervous glance. "Whatever happens," Michael said softly, reaching for her hand, "we're in this together." The ship's hatch opened with a hiss, revealing a contingent of tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and large almond-shaped eyes. Their leader, a stern-faced individual with intricate markings on their forehead, stepped forward. "I am Chief Sentinel Zax of the Andromedan Security Force," the being announced in a voice that seemed to resonate directly in Michael's mind. "You will exit your vessel and submit to questioning. Any resistance will be met with immediate force." Michael and Pixis stepped out onto the platform, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. They were immediately surrounded by Andromedan guards, their weapons trained on the unexpected visitors. "I am Pixis of Illyria," Pixis said, her melodic voice steady despite the circumstances. "This is Michael of Earth. We come in peace, seeking aid and sanctuary." Chief Sentinel Zax's expression remained impassive. "An Illyrian and a human. A most unusual pairing. You will follow us to the interrogation chambers. The High Council will determine your fate." As they were led through the sprawling Andromedan complex, Michael marveled at the advanced technology surrounding them. Holographic displays flickered with incomprehensible data, and sleek machines hummed with barely held back power. In the interrogation chamber, Michael and Pixis found themselves separated by a shimmering energy field. Chief Sentinel Zax stood before them, flanked by two junior officers. "Explain your presence on our world," Zax demanded, his piercing gaze fixed on Pixis. Pixis straightened, her iridescent eyes meeting Zax's unflinchingly. "My people face extinction. A genetic crisis threatens our very existence. We came to Earth seeking solutions, but were pursued by our enemies, the Zorgons. We fled through a wormhole and arrived here by chance." Zax turned to Michael, his expression unreadable. "And you, human?" what is your role in this? Michael swallowed hard, acutely aware of the weight of his words. I'm an engineer. I've been helping Pixis understand human biology and reproduction. We believe a hybrid solution might save her people. A flicker of interest passed across Zax's features. Our medical and genetic technology is unparalleled in known space. However, we do not share our advancements lightly. The last time we aided another species, it led to centuries of conflict. Please, Pixis implored, her voice tinged with desperation. We ask only for the chance to learn. In exchange, we offer knowledge of our own. Michael's human ingenuity combined with Illyrian adaptability, surely there's value in such a unique perspective. Zax was silent for a long moment, his gaze shifting between the two captives. Finally, he spoke. I will present your case to the High Council. Until then, you will remain under guard in a secure dwelling. Do not attempt to leave or contact anyone outside. Is this understood? Michael and Pixis nodded, relief washing over them. As they were led to their new quarters, Michael couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and trepidation. They had escaped immediate danger, but the challenges ahead were just getting started. The fate of Pixis's people, and perhaps the future of human-alien relations, now rested in the hands of the mysterious Andromedan High Council. Council, the fate of Pixis's people, and perhaps the future of human-alien relations, now rested in the hands of the mysterious Andromedan High Council. Days passed in their secure dwelling, each moment filled with anxious anticipation. Michael spent his time studying the advanced Andromedan technology surrounding them, his engineer's mind buzzing with possibilities. Pixis meditated, drawing on her diplomatic training to prepare for their eventual audience with the Council. Their uneasy peace was shattered by the sound of distant explosions. The room's holographic displays flickered to life, showing scenes of chaos erupting across the city. Andromedan security forces clashed with rebels in the streets, energy weapons painting the sky with streaks of light. What's happening? Michael asked, pressing his face against the window. Before Pixis could respond, the door to their quarters slid open. Chief Sentinel Zax burst in, his usually composed features twisted with urgency. Subcommander Vex has launched a coup, Zax explained, his mental voice tinged with distress. The isolationists are seizing control of key facilities. We must move you to a secure location immediately. As they hurried through the corridors, alarms blared, and Andromedan guards rushed past. A massive tremor shook the building, sending them stumbling against the walls. They've breached the compound's defenses, Zax said, his expression grim. Michael's eyes darted around, taking in the complex systems that lined the walls. An idea struck him. Zax, I might be able to hack into the security systems. Give us a chance to escape. Zax hesitated, then nodded. Do it quickly. Michael's fingers flew over the alien interface, his mind racing to decipher the unfamiliar technology. Pixis watched in amazement as he bypassed firewalls and rerouted security protocols with uncanny speed. Got it, Michael exclaimed. The doors around them slid open and the sound of alarms faded. They made their way through the chaos of the compound, narrowly avoiding patrols of Vex's forces. As they reached the outer perimeter, Zax spoke urgently. The planet is descending into civil war. I must return to aid the Loyalist forces. You two must find a way to... His words were cut short by a blast of energy that scorched the wall beside them. A squad of rebel Andromedans had spotted them. Run! Zax shouted, drawing his weapon. Michael and Pixis sprinted through the streets of the alien city, weaving between panicked civilians and pockets of fighting. The spires that had once seemed so majestic now loomed ominously, scarred by weapon fire. As they caught their breath in the shadow of a towering structure, Michael's mind raced. He turned to Pixis, his eyes alight with an idea. I think I know how we can help end this conflict, he said. Earth has a long history of war, but also of conflict resolution. If we can get to a communication hub, I might be able to broadcast a message to both sides. Pixis studied him, her iridescent eyes wide. You would risk yourself for a people not your own? Michael nodded. It's the right thing to do, and it might be our best chance of gaining their trust and help for your people. With renewed purpose, they made their way through the war-torn city. Pixis's knowledge of Andromedan culture and Michael's ability to interface with their technology proved an invaluable combination. They finally reached the central communications hub, a massive structure pulsing with energy. Michael set to work immediately, bypassing security measures and preparing a planet-wide broadcast. "Ready," he said, turning to Pixis. "Let's hope this works." Michael took a deep breath and began to speak. His words carried to every corner of the Andromedan world. He spoke of Earth's history, of conflict's tenacity through diplomacy and mutual understanding. He proposed a framework for negotiations, drawing on successful peace talks from humanity's past. As he spoke, the sounds of battle outside seemed to diminish. Pixis watched the city through the windows, noticing a gradual cessation of hostilities. When Michael finished, there was a moment of eerie silence. Then, incoming transmissions flooded the communications array. Sub-Commander Vex and High Counselor Lyrax, leaders of the opposing factions, both expressed interest in the proposed peace talks. Exhilarated by this initial success, Michael and Pixis began coordinating with both sides to arrange a neutral meeting ground. However, their elation was short-lived. Pixis suddenly stiffened, her eyes narrowing as she scanned a data readout. "Michael," she said, her voice low and urgent, "I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with Zorgon technology. They must have followed us through the wormhole." Michael's face hardened. "They'll try to sabotage the peace talks. We can't let that happen." As they prepared to warn Zax and the Andromedan leaders, a high-pitched whine filled the air. A Zorgon energy blast shattered the window, showering them with crystalline shards. Michael pulled Pixis to the ground, shielding her with his body. As Zorgon infiltrators began to swarm into the room, he realized that their fight for peace on this alien world had only just begun. As Zorgon infiltrators swarmed into the room, Michael's mind raced, searching for a way out. He glanced at Pixis, her eyes wide with fear and persistence. "The security protocols," he whispered urgently. "Can you activate them?" Pixis nodded, her fingers dancing across the alien interface. Suddenly, a shimmering energy field erupted around them, deflecting the Zorgon energy blasts. The infiltrators snarled in frustration, their attacks harmlessly dissipating against the barrier. "It won't hold for long," Pixis warned, her voice strained. "We need to move." Michael scanned the room, spotting a maintenance hatch in the far corner. "There," he pointed. "If we can reach it, we might be able to escape through the service tunnels." They made a break for it, ducking and weaving as the Zorgons redoubled their assault. Just as they reached the hatch, a stray blast slipped through the weakening barrier, catching Michael in the shoulder. He cried out in pain but managed to wrench the hatch open. "Go!" he urged Pixis, gritting his teeth against the searing agony. They tumbled into the narrow maintenance shaft, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. As they crawled through the cramped space, Michael's vision began to blur, his injured shoulder leaving a trail of blood. "We need to warn the Andromedans," Pixis said, her voice tight with worry. "The peace talks are in jeopardy." Michael nodded weakly. "If we can reach Chief Sentinel Zax, he might be able to help us." They emerged from the tunnels into a deserted corridor. Pixis supported Michael as they made their way towards the central command center, the sounds of distant fighting growing louder. Suddenly, they rounded a corner and came face to face with a group of Andromedan guards. Weapons were raised, tension thick in the air. "Wait!" Pixis called out, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "We have critical information for Chief Sentinel Zax. The Zorgons have infiltrated your world." The guards exchanged wary glances before their leader stepped forward. "Follow us," he commanded, his mental voice tinged with suspicion. They were escorted to a heavily fortified room where Chief Sentinel Zax was coordinating the defense efforts. His eyes widened at the sight of Michael's injury. "What happened?" Zax demanded. Pixis quickly explained the situation, presenting evidence of the Zorgon infiltration. As she spoke, Michael swayed on his feet, the loss of blood taking its toll. Zax's expression hardened. "This changes everything," he said. "We must inform both factions immediately." Within moments, a secure communication channel was established with Sub-Commander Vex and High Counselor Lyrax. Pixis presented her evidence, including footage of the captured Zorgon operatives. The revelations sent shockwaves through the Andromedan leadership. The bitter rivals, faced with an external threat, found themselves reluctantly united. "We must put aside our differences," High Counselor Lyrax declared, her mental voice resonating with authority. "The survival of our people depends on it." Sub-Commander Vex, his features twisted with a mix of anger and resignation, nodded in agreement. "A temporary alliance, then," he conceded, "until this threat is neutralized." As the Andromedans began to mobilize their forces against the Zorgon Infiltrators, High Counselor Lyrax turned her attention to Michael's deteriorating condition. "Your human friend requires immediate medical attention," she observed. "His actions have earned him access to our most advanced healing technologies." Michael was rushed to a high-tech medical facility, the likes of which he had never seen. Andromedan doctors worked tirelessly, using devices that seemed to bend the very laws of biology. Pixis watched anxiously as they stabilized his condition, mending damaged tissue and replenishing lost blood with astonishing speed. Hours passed, and finally, the lead physician approached Pixis. "He will recover," she announced, "but he needs time to regain his full strength." As Michael recuperated, the Andromedan factions worked to solidify their newfound alliance. The shared threat of the Zorgons had provided common ground, and negotiations progressed rapidly. Days later, Michael was well enough to attend a historic session of the Andromedan High Council. Leaning on Pixis for support, he watched as Sub-Commander Vex and High Counselor Lyrax signed a treaty establishing a coalition government. "This is just the beginning," Zax commented, standing beside them. "We face greater challenges ahead." No sooner had he spoken than alarms blared throughout the chamber. A junior officer burst in, his mental voice tinged with panic. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive Zorgon fleet entering the system," he reported. "They're on an intercept course." The chamber erupted into a flurry of activity. High Counselor Lyrax turned to Michael and Pixis, her expression grave. "Your expertise may be our best hope for survival," she said. "Will you aid us in our defense?" Michael exchanged a glance with Pixis, seeing his own perseverance reflected in her eyes. Despite his weakened state, he knew there was only one answer. "We're with you," he declared, straightening up with renewed purpose. "What's the plan?" As the Andromedan leaders began outlining their defensive strategies, Michael's mind raced with possibilities. He thought of Earth's military history, of tactics that might be adapted to this interstellar conflict. "If we combine Andromedan technology with Illyrian adaptability," he mused aloud, "we might have a chance, but we'll need more help." Pixis nodded, understanding his train of thought. "We should contact Earth," she suggested. "Human ingenuity could be the edge we need." The Andromedan Council hesitated, wary of involving yet another alien race. But as the Zorgon fleet drew nearer, they realized they had little choice. "Very well," High Counselor Lyrax conceded. "Use our communication array. Call for aid from your homeworld." Michael approached the advanced communication system, his heart pounding. As he prepared to send a message across the vast expanse of space, he couldn't help but wonder, would Earth respond? And if they did, would their help arrive in time to make a difference in the looming battle? With a deep breath, he began to compose his urgent plea, knowing that the fate of multiple civilizations hung in the balance. Balance. Michael took a deep breath and began transmitting, his voice carrying across light years of space to Earth. "This is Michael Chen, formerly of the Extraterrestrial Contact Division. We are in the Andromeda Galaxy, facing an imminent threat from a hostile alien force known as the Zorgons. We request immediate assistance. Earth's aid could be crucial in this interstellar conflict." As the message beamed across the cosmos, Michael turned to face the Andromedan leaders. "Now we wait," he said, his voice tinged with a mix of hope and uncertainty. The wait was short-lived. Within hours, the Zorgon fleet entered the system, their massive ships blotting out the stars. The newly formed Andromedan-Illyrian Alliance scrambled to mount a defense, their ships rising to meet the invaders. From the command center, Michael watched the battle unfold on holographic displays. Andromedan cruisers exchanged fire with Zorgon battleships, while nimble Illyrian fighters darted between the larger vessels, striking at vulnerable points. Their numbers are overwhelming, High Counselor Lyrax observed, her mental voice grave. Michael nodded, his mind racing. We need to use unconventional tactics. The Zorgons will expect a standard defense. He turned to the Andromedan tacticians, outlining a strategy that combined Earth's historical battle maneuvers with the advanced technology at their disposal. The Allied fleet began to adopt these new formations, catching the Zorgons off guard. Despite this initial success, the sheer firepower of the Zorgon Armada began to take its toll. Allied ships exploded in silent bursts of light and debris, their crews lost to the void of space. Pixis, monitoring communications, suddenly straightened. Michael, I'm detecting a massive spatial distortion at the edge of the system. All eyes turned to the main display as a swirling vortex of energy materialized. From its depths emerged a fleet of sleek, unfamiliar vessels. Michael's heart leaped as he recognized the insignia on their hulls. It's Earth, he exclaimed. They received our message. The Earth fleet, led by the imposing UES Humanity's Hope, wasted no time joining the fray. Their ships, a marvel of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech, tore into the Zorgon formation with unexpected ferocity. A familiar voice crackled over the comm system. This is Admiral Thompson of the Earth Defense Fleet. Sorry we're late to the party. Michael grinned, relief washing over him. Admiral, your timing couldn't be better. With Earth's reinforcements, the tide of battle began to shift. Michael coordinated with Admiral Thompson, integrating the human ships into their defensive strategy. The command center buzzed with renewed energy as the Allied forces launched a counteroffensive. Inspiration struck Michael as he observed the ebb and flow of the battle. He turned to Pixis and the Andromedan scientists. The planet's gravitational field generators, can we repurpose them as a weapon? The Andromedans exchanged glances, their eyes widening with realization. It's possible, one of them replied, but it's never been attempted. Then let's make history, Michael said, his voice firm. They set to work, reprogramming the massive generators typically used for climate control. As the battle raged above, Michael and the team raced against time to create localized gravitational anomalies that would disrupt the Zorgon fleet. The plan sprang into action. Pockets of warped space-time blossomed amid the Zorgon formation, sending their ships careening into each other and disrupting their weapon systems. The Allied fleet seized this advantage, pressing forward with a coordinated assault. Earthships employed unconventional tactics, targeting Zorgon command vessels with surgical precision. Illyrian craft utilized their superior maneuverability to outflank the enemy, while Andromedan ships provided heavy firepower and defensive support. The battle reached a fever pitch as the Zorgons, recognizing the threat posed by the Earth reinforcements, concentrated their attacks on the human ships. Michael watched in horror as the Humanity's Hope sustained heavy damage while protecting a group of Andromedan civilian transports. We need to end this now, Michael muttered, his mind racing. He turned to the Andromedan High Council. You mentioned a prototype weapon earlier, an energy cannon. Is it operational? High Counselor Lyrax hesitated before nodding. It is, but it's untested in combat. The power requirements are enormous. It's a risk we have to take, Michael insisted. As the Andromedans prepared the weapon, the Zorgon fleet regrouped for a final desperate assault on the planet. Michael recognized the opportunity this presented. All Allied ships, this is Michael Chen, he broadcast. We need to create a gap in the Zorgon formation. Give the Andromedans a clear shot at their center. The plan was dangerous, but the Allied ships executed it with precision. Earth and Illyrian vessels darted between Zorgon ships, drawing their fire and creating a momentary opening in their lines. Now, Michael shouted. The Andromedan energy cannon fired, its beam lancing across space. It struck the heart of the Zorgon fleet, vaporizing several capital ships in an instant. The Zorgon formation fractured, their remaining ships scattering in disarray. As the Allied fleet pressed their advantage, mopping up the remaining resistance, Michael sagged in relief. The battle was won, but the war for galactic peace was not nearly finished. In the aftermath, as rescue operations began, Michael found himself aboard the Humanity's Hope, reuniting with Admiral Thompson. As they discussed Earth's new role in interstellar affairs, Pixis approached with news from the Andromedan High Council. "They're proposing a permanent alliance," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. "Not just between our three species, but open to other peaceful civilizations as well." Michael and Admiral Thompson exchanged glances, the weight of this historic moment settling upon them. As they considered the implications of this new interstellar alliance, Michael realized that their adventure was just getting started. In fact, it was just beginning. The aftermath of the battle brought a flurry of activity as the Allied forces tended to the wounded, secured Zorgon prisoners, and began the process of rebuilding. In the months that followed, Michael found himself at the center of a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, technological exchanges, and cultural integration efforts. The newly formed interstellar alliance between humans, Illyrians, and Andromedans was taking shape, and as one of the key figures who had brought these species together, Michael's expertise was in high demand. One crisp morning, as Michael stood on the observation deck of the Andromedan capital city, Pixis approached him with a datapad in hand. Her eyes gleamed with excitement as she spoke. "Michael, the High Council has approved our proposal. We're to oversee the implementation of the Illyrian fertility solution." Michael's face lit up at the news. This project had been their shared passion since the dust of the battle had settled. "That's fantastic. When do we start?" "Immediately," Pixis replied, her tail swishing with anticipation. "They've allocated resources for a state-of-the-art research facility right here on the Andromedan homeworld." Within weeks, the facility was operational. It was a marvel of design, combining the elegant efficiency of Andromedan architecture with the robust functionality favored by humans. Michael led a diverse team of scientists, their lab coats a patchwork of Earth's white, Illyria's iridescent blue, and Andromeda's deep purple. Days blurred into weeks, then months, as they worked tirelessly to adapt the Andromedan genetic techniques to address the Illyrian fertility crisis. Michael often found himself marveling at the sight of the three species working in harmony, each bringing their unique strengths to the table. Dr. Vex, an Andromedan geneticist, manipulated holographic DNA strands with practiced ease. "The key," he explained, "lies in the telomeric regions. If we can stabilize them using a modified version of our longevity treatments, we could potentially restore the damaged reproductive systems." Pixis finished, her eyes wide with realization. Michael nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "And if we combine that with the nanobot delivery system our Earth team has been developing..." The breakthrough came on a day like any other. Michael was reviewing data when an alert chimed from one of the simulation stations. He rushed over, joined by Pixis and Dr. Vex. As they watched, the holographic display showed a successful fusion of gametes, resulting in a viable Illyrian embryo. The lab erupted in cheers. Pixis threw her arms around Michael, tears of joy streaming down her face. "We did it," she whispered. With the treatment developed, the first wave of Illyrian volunteers arrived. Pixis, determined to lead by example, was among them. Michael held her hand as she underwent the procedure, his heart pounding with a mixture of professional pride and personal concern. As the volunteers prepared to return to Illyria, Michael and Pixis found themselves at a crossroads. They stood together on the launch pad, watching as the Illyrian ships prepared for departure. "I could go with them," Pixis said softly, "help oversee the implementation on Illyria." Michael nodded, understanding the weight of the decision. "Or you could stay here. We could continue our work with the Alliance." Pixis turned to face him, her expression resolute. "Why choose? We've bridged gaps between stars. Surely we can find a way to do both." Their decision made, Michael and Pixis threw themselves into their roles as ambassadors of interspecies cooperation. They split their time between Earth, Illyria, and Andromeda, overseeing the fertility program and fostering diplomatic ties. It was during a rare moment of calm as they watched the twin moons of Illyria rise from the balcony of their temporary quarters that Michael turned to Pixis with a question that had been on his mind for months. "Pixis," he began, his voice soft but steady, Our work has brought new life to countless families. I was wondering if you'd like to start one of our own." Pixis's eyes widened, then crinkled with joy. "I thought you'd never ask." Their wedding was a spectacle unlike any the Allied worlds had seen. Held in the Grand Hall of the Andromedan High Council, it was broadcast across all 3 star systems. Michael stood tall in a suit that blended Earth formal wear with Illyrian ceremonial garments, while Pixis was resplendent in a gown that shimmered with the bioluminescence of her homeworld. Admiral Thompson, serving as Michael's best man, leaned in to whisper, "When I recruited you for the Extraterrestrial Contact Division, I never imagined it would lead to this." Michael grinned. "Makes first contact with aliens, saves multiple civilizations, gets the girl. All in a day's work, right?" As they exchanged vows, their words carried the weight of not just personal commitment, but of the promise of a shared future for all their peoples. The reception that followed was a joyous blend of cultures. Humans danced to Illyrian music, Andromedans sampled Earth cuisine, and everywhere the air buzzed with a sense of hope and possibility. It was near the end of the celebration that Michael and Pixis made their announcement. Standing hand in hand, they shared their intention to start a family, using the very technology they had helped develop. The news was met with thunderous applause, and as Michael looked out over the sea of faces, human, Illyrian, and Andromedan alike, he felt a profound sense of belonging. This, he realized, was more than just a personal milestone. It was a symbol of everything they had fought for, a living embodiment of the alliance they had forged. As the party wound down, Michael and Pixis slipped away to a quiet corner. They stood together, looking out at the star-filled sky that now represented not distant, unreachable points of light, but a vast network of friends and allies. Pixis leaned her head on Michael's shoulder. "So," she said, a hint of playfulness in her voice, "ready for our next big adventure?" Michael wrapped his arm around her, feeling the gentle flutter of her heartbeat against his side. "With you? Always." As they stood there, bathed in starlight, the future stretched out before them, vast, unknown, and filled with limitless possibility.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.